Hello YouTube, we're on the Untitled programming channel. I'm its host. My name is Andrei. Greet you, welcome. This is our 25 lesson. We're talking about HTML and JavaScript, and topic we'll talk about a closer look at window.onload. Okay. Window is a global object. It may seem a little weird, but the window object acts as your global environment, so the names of any properties or methods window are resolved even if you don't prepend with them window. In addition, any global variables you define are also put into the window namespace, so you can reference them as window.myvariable. So, a closer look at window.onload. One thing we'll use it often so far in this book, a window.onload event handler. By assigning a function to the window.onload property, we can ensure our code is run until the page is loaded and the DOM is completely set up. Now, there is a lot going on in the window.onload statement, so let's have another look, and it will all start to come together for you. And don't forget, remember, you will find all the code and materials of this lesson under this video in description. Link to Google Drive, Sublime Text and Validator. So let's look on Sublime Text. So, this is our code. Here is our global window object. Onload is property of a window object. This is anonymous function, which is assigned to the onload property. And of course, the body of the function is executed once the window fully loads the page invokes or anonymous function. Another look at the document object. The document object is another familiar face. It's the object we've been using to access the DOM. And as you've just seen, it is actual a property of the window object. Of course, we haven't used it like window document because we don't need to. Let's take a quick peek under the covers to see its more interesting properties and methods. This is our properties and methods. The domain property is the domain of the server. The document is being served from the weekly smart.com. And title. We can use the title property to get the title of the document using the document title. The URL is just the URL of the document. And as you know, this method grabs an element by its ID. These are similar to get element by ID, except they retrieve elements using text and class. And we use this method in chapter 3 to create new playlist items. As you know, it creates elements suitable for function the DOM. A closer look at document getElement by ID. We promised in the beginning of this chapter that you understand document getElement by ID. By the end of this chapter, well, you made it to functions, objects, and methods, and now you're ready. Check it out. var_div document in the document object is built-in JavaScript object that gives access to the DOM. getElement by ID is a method that takes one argument, that of ID element, and returns an element object. What was the confusion looking string of syntax now has a lot more meaning, right? Now that the variable is also an object, an element object, let's take a closer look at the two. One more object to think about your element objects. We shouldn't forget when we're working with methods like getElement by ID that the element they return are also objects. Okay, you might not have realized this, but not that you know. You might be starting to think everything in JavaScript is an object, and well, you're pretty much right. You've already seen some evidence of element properties like the inner HTML property, let's look at some of the more notable properties and methods. Here is the properties and methods for the P element, but all elements support this. You know about inner HTML two other properties, and our child element count how many children the element has, and the first element if there is one. You can use the methods openChild and insert before to insert new elements into the DOM children of this element. We'll use set attribute and get attribute to set and get attributes like src, class, and id in elements. There are no dumb questions, since window is a global object. That means I can use its properties and all of its methods without specifying window first, right? That's right. And whatever you prepended the window object's properties and methods, this window is up to you. For things like alert, everyone knows that what is that and no one uses window with it. On the other hand, if you're using the laser no properties or methods, you might want to make your code more easily understandable and use window. So technically I could write onload is equal init instead of window.onload is equal init, right? Yes, but we don't recommend it in this particular case because there is a lot of objects have onload properties, so your code is going to be much clearer if you use window.dot in front of onload. The reason we don't say window.onload is equal init with two brackets is because that would call the function instead of using its value. That's right, when you use parentheses after the function name, like init with two brackets, I will show you init, and you say you wanted to call the function init. If you use its name without parentheses, then you're assigning the function value to the onload property. It's a subtle difference when you're typing in, but the ramifications are large, so pay careful attention. Which of the two ways of creating a window.onload handler is better, using a function name or an anonymous function? One isn't better than the other, both they do basically the same thing. Set the value of window.onload to a function that will run when the page has loaded. If you need to call init from another function later in your program for some reason, then you'll need to define an init function. Otherwise, it doesn't matter which way you do it. What's the difference between built-in objects, the window and document, and the ones we make? One difference is that built-in objects follow the guidelines set by specifications, so you can refer to the W3C specifications to understand all their properties and methods. In addition, many of the built-in objects, like string, may have properties that are immutable and cannot be changed. Other than that, objects are objects. The nice thing about built-in objects is they're already built for you. Yes, string is an object. Check out a good JavaScript reference to get all the details of its properties and methods. As you can see, you may read this. And let's talk about bullet points. To create a function, to use the function keyword with the parentheses to hold parameters if there are any. Functions can be named to be or be anonymous. Naming rules for functions are the same as naming rules for variables. The body of a function goes between curly brackets and contains statements that do the work of the functions. A function can return a value with the return statement. To invoke or call a function, use its name and pass any arguments it needs. JavaScript uses pass-by-value parameter passing. When you pass an object like a dog as an argument in a function to a function, the parameter gets a copy to the reference of the object. variables defined, and functions including parameters are known as local variables. Variables defined outside of functions are known as global variables. Local variables are not visible outside the function in which they are defined. This is not the scope of a variable. If you declare a local variable with the same name as a global variable, the local variable shadows the global variable. When you leak to multiple JavaScript files from your page of the global variables are defined the same global space. If you assign a new variable without using the var keyword, that variable will be global even if you are first assigned in a function. And functions are values that can be assigned to variables, spaced to other functions stored in arrays, and assigned to object properties. Objects are collections of properties. You access an object's properties using node, dot notation, or with two brackets square notation. If you use two brackets square brackets notation, close the properties name as a string, for example, my object name. Like this. You can change the property value, delete properties, or add new properties to an object. You can enumerate on object properties using a for loop. Function assigned to an object property is referred to the method. A method is a special keyword. This refers to the object on which it was invoked. A constructor is a function that makes objects. The job of a constructor to create a new object and initialize its properties. To invoke a constructor to create an object, use the new keyword, for example, new doc with two brackets. We have already been using several objects in the book, including document, window and various elements objects. The window object is a global object. The document object is one Windows property. The document getElementById method returns in elements objects. HTML5 crossword is being where the chapter function. You may do this crossword and sharpen your pencil solution next. And if you're ready for HTML5 crossword solution, watch. This is our solution. Okay. And making your HTML location aware geolocation. We'll talk about this in the next lesson. And here is our 25 lesson about HTML and JavaScript is over. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel, please. Put like, share with friends, comments. Eat bananas, meditate, do exercise every evening. Read more books on the topics and drink more water for the brain. That's all. Thank you. Bye.